Well, welcome everyone. We are very excited to have you. It is exactly the top of the hour. I'm guessing we'll have people starting to join us over the next minute or two, but I wanted to kick off promptly. We've been really excited about this webinar. I personally love having chats with Matt, and you will be blown away by him. And I will try to add some humor and entertainment, but he will definitely steal the show. So, today, we are talking, as you know, about how to create or refine your podcast strategy. And the goal is to convey that it is way easier than you think. And we're going to give you lots of really actionable tips and talking about actual examples and make this something where when you get off, I hope you'll be inspired, but also feel like it's not something that is an insurmountable task. So I am Susan Theder. I am the Chief Marketing and Experience Officer at FMG, and I would love to connect with all of you. Anybody that is not already connected with me, please reach out and follow me. And I am very excited to introduce Matt Halloran. For those of you that may or not know him, he is the co-founder and Chief Relationship Officer of ProudMouth, and you'll learn more about ProudMouth in this webinar. We have partnered with ProudMouth at FMG to round out what we believe is a complete, we're always looking at the entire marketing ecosystem. And, we specialize in a lot of the elements, but one of the things that we don't actually help advisors with is podcasts. So we thought, what a perfect partnership to work with the leading firm in the industry that helps advisors with their podcasts. So Matt, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Have you. I think I'm going to stop sharing so we can just have a conversation. There we go. We're good, right?
Yeah, somebody just said in the chat they're from Alaska. That's cool.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, I should ask, actually, we always do this when we start the presentation. Where are you from? And always like a fun question. It's summer, so what's your next vacation? Anybody taking any summer vacations?
I leave tomorrow.
You leave tomorrow?
Yeah.
Where are you going?
Home. Yeah. So my wife and I really tried hard to create a home that we didn't need to vacation from. And so when I'm off, I am literally in my backyard hanging out with my chickens. I'm going to be doing some metal art, which is what I do to recharge my batteries and hopefully relax.
What's metal art?
So I take recycled like car parts and metal scrap and I turn it into art.
When people ask me what hobby I have, I draw a blank because I have no fun hobby like that. And I'm going to just copy and say that I do that because that sounds really interesting, unique, and I'm inspired. You know what? You'll have to, in our follow-up, you're going to have to send an image. We'll have to send an image of one of your pieces of art.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't even read all these things. Everybody is going to a lot of fun places.
It's going fast, isn't it?
And they're all over oh my gosh, this is amazing. Soak in the sun in Phoenix. I wonder what temperature it is there. I used to go to Phoenix all the time. Beverly, Mass. I know Beverly. I'm from Boston. Go Chickens, they say. All right, well, you know what? Thank you everybody for sharing that. Suburbs of Philadelphia, that is where I grew up. I grew up in Gladwin. So Glenn, maybe we live near each other. Let's kick it off. So
all right.
You are the expert on podcasts. I have some expertise in marketing. The two go very well together. Take us through the conversation today.
Yeah, well, I really want to hinge everything on what you and I have been spending lots of time talking about. And in fact, Kirk and I just recorded some videos this morning about buying content or utilizing what we refer to as canned content, right? And in a lot of marketing circles, Susan, like people like, oh, that's bad, it's evil, don't use that. I don't agree. In fact, I think that buying, especially pre-approved content or professionally written content by somebody like FMG, can be a huge boost to you creating really great customized content. So I'll give you a great example. Well, at least I think it's a great example. It might be a terrible example, but I like the example. So, there's always these lists, the top 10 things that you need to know about Social Security, right?
Yeah.
So let's say you look at those top 10 things and you're like, well, you know what? I agree with 5 of these, but I have 2 that I'd like to add. That's so valuable what you just got from that company. And you can even say, right, hey, I was just doing some research. I found this really great article that I really, really like, but there's a couple of things that I would take away from this and a couple of things I'd like to add. What you're doing, Susan, you're infusing your personality into this content without having to create all of the content organically. Hitch your wagon to stuff like that. And you and I have been spending lots of time, talking about the stuff that you write specifically, and you have given me a glimpse into what you prepare, which is so valuable. And I just was going through the articles that you shared with me, and I was like, man, so one of them is about the one coming up in August. Am I allowed to talk about what's coming up in August?
Yeah, you can talk about
Okay,
what's coming up in August.
So
and by the way, everybody, we will tie this back to podcast, but yes.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. So here's what ends up happening. So one of the ones is about cybersecurity, basically phishing scams. And you have like 7 or 8 or like different things that you need to point. Every one of those can be a video.
Yeah.
Totally.
Every
one of those can be its own piece of content, and all of it put together can be a podcast, a 27-minute show.
Exactly. And I think what you've just hit on, which I did not give you that script, but I do agree. One, I've always kind of cringed at the word canned content because I can't stand canned content either. That is not ideal, but a content marketing strategy is the foundation of all good marketing, whether it's for either of our firms or for any of our financial advisors. And it also is one of the most time-consuming hurdles to being an effective marketer, because there is no secret sauce, there's no easy button. The content, you can't market without the content. Right. What companies like FMG and I think ProudMouth do is provide the content so that you can find the content as a foundation, and then maybe it works perfectly, but maybe it would be, we always encourage you to then edit it and make it your own. But at any rate, so in addition to a content strategy, or how does podcasting is part of a content strategy. So why, if you're pitching to an advisor, why should they start a podcast? What would you say? So we got all these people on the webinar. They're obviously like at least interested. Close it for them.
Yeah, so it's the most intimate, portable way for you to scale your credibility. And I'll unpack that very quickly. So people listen to their podcasts in their quiet time. So you have to ask yourself, when is the last time that you were invited into your ideal clients and prospects or centers of influence quiet time? When they're cooking dinner, getting ready, commuting, exercising, just hanging out with their family. When you're not, because it's creepy, right? You're not gonna be like, hey, here's Susan, she's a nice, you don't do that, right? But people listen to podcasts in their quiet time. They are opting into your thought leadership and expertise. It's the greatest client communication tool that you'll ever have. And it also makes it so that you don't have to keep saying the same stuff in every single solitary meeting, right?
Right.
This is one of those auxiliary benefits, Susan. I don't think a lot of people really understand. So if you have a good strategy, a good podcast strategy, you will put in the recordings, all of the things that you find yourself saying over and over again, especially like in discovery meetings, especially when you have to talk about yourself. Like, I'm the smartest, greatest financial planner in the world, right? Well, when you say that in front of somebody, you look like a schmuck. But if you do it and you have somebody maybe asking you questions about you being a great financial advisor, and then you can talk about it, it's received very differently by prospects specifically. Yeah. And then what happens is people come in pre-sold, they already know, like, and trust you, right? Because they've been consuming their content when it's convenient for them. And as this entire webinar is about, it's easier than you think to actually execute this. And one of the things that makes a great financial advisor is overthinking things, right? That's right. We all know that. All of you who are on this know that you check that box. I am going to tell you how easy it is with just a couple, 3 or 4 simple steps, some really great free resources that each of you, by the end of this summer hasn't started yet officially, but at the end of the summer, by even the beginning of August, you could have launched your show with everything you need to successfully launch your show.
Yeah, I just typed in a question because I'm curious the percentage of people on the call that have a podcast and are kind of looking at tweaking it versus those that are considering starting it. And I think, this is something that is increasingly becoming important. I think 5 years ago, there were far less podcast listeners than there are today. I read some stat that it's over 100 million, and that was probably as of 2022. I'm sure, it's probably even higher than that. And, as I think about it, giving away your wisdom is how it's really your most critical brand asset is your wisdom, and giving it away is what gives you authority. And there's an expression that, the seven times rule, that any prospect needs to see your brand 7 times before they will take action. And this is probably one of the greatest ways to build authority and round out your overall marketing strategy, which of course also includes a website and social and email. You really have to have those first before you add the podcast. But think about how, when you are listening to podcasts and the perception you have of the people you're listening to, there is just a sort of instinctual respect and level of authority and likability, because we all, I think, prefer hearing and seeing to just reading words flat. So talk to me a little bit, Matt, about, somebody is interested in starting. What are the steps they need to take to just, cross that hurdle and do their first one? And talk even about, I get a lot of questions like, do I need that fancy microphone that you have in front of you?
Yeah. So I'm going to start with foundation, and then I'll talk with execution. So I'm going to try to make this not super long in the tooth, but just give me a second. All right. Yeah. So here's the deal. First off, everybody should grab a piece of paper, right? So I want everybody to just grab a piece of paper, yellow pad. I don't care if you're using a Remarkable, whatever, but grab a piece of paper. And what I want you to do is I want you to put 1 through 12 on a piece of paper. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to write there is, why are you an advisor? Okay. The second thing you're going to write down is, what do you actually do for clients? And number 3, who is your ideal client? Okay. There are your first 3 episodes. Because here's the deal. What happens is, so let's say you've recorded.
Say that one more time. Let's
Yep.
get that down.
Why did you become a financial advisor?
Somebody just said, please slow down and repeat. Yeah.
Okay. So why did you become a financial advisor? Right. So it's kind of the who are you?
And you know what that is? It's a story.
Yeah.
And everybody loves stories, which we preach all the time, but that's an easy one to tell. Everybody can tell that story.
Well, and when you make it portable and convenient, right, all of a sudden people start consuming that story when you are not even paying attention. Well, very quickly, digression. We have something called the perfect podcasting formula, which is storytelling, education, entertainment, call to action. Every good presentation needs to have those 3 things. So anyway, so who are you?
I'm just going to make a note, and I know I have my my peer Blair on the phone. We will make sure that those takeaways are in the emails that we send out. The other thing we always like to remind you is that we will send a replay, but I think we'll make sure that some of these snippets of recommendations are called out in the email, or my word on that. And let's go back to the 1, 2, 3. The first thing you do is tell a story. Second,
your story. Your story.
Why you're a financial advisor.
The second thing is, what do you actually do? Right. And this is about your financial planning process or tax strategies, and I'm telling you, you can fill 30 minutes pretty quickly with this, right? Because this is literally you dissecting and then sharing exactly your secret sauce. And I'm going to talk about that a lot. Listen, you don't have any secret sauce anymore. It doesn't exist. Google knows everything about anything about everybody, right? What they're going to buy is your personality. You need to show them that they can have a real connection with you, and then they're going to buy your product and follow your advice. So that's the second one. And then the last one is, who do you do it for? And this is where the stories, Susan, come in that are just absolutely fantastic. So let me tell you a story about David Pulsini, who happens to be a client of both of ours, right? FMG and ProudMouth. And talk about his financial services practice, utilizing that as a story, right? And this is the same thing. Well, I specifically work with Union Pacific Railroad conductors. Cool. Let me tell you a great story about, this one Union Pacific Railroad worker that I work with.
So Matt, is this generally advisors just talking with a mic to themselves off a script, or do they bring in either a coworker or, a friend, somebody in their community to interview them?
So, yes, to all of the above. And so it should be a conversation, not a presentation. That's a really
I was
important
going to say, I'm
thing.
going to make a point of that. I just think the thought, a lot of advisors want to do video, but they're just looking at a camera and they're just talking, and it doesn't feel as natural as talking to someone. And it's kind of hard. Those don't always come off as authentic. A interview always comes off as authentic. And of course, you can feed them the questions that you want to answer the questions to. So I think my advice would be to define your podcasting strategy and format as being one, at least to start, as one that is an interview format.
Yep.
I know a lot of advisors that use their either head of marketing, or it could be their, their partner as the interviewer, and others that are using it as a platform to bring in guest speakers, where they actually are doing less of the talking and just weaving in some thoughts. And you can do a combination of both. That takes a lot of the onus off of you to come up with the entire, monologue script. So think about the people, and we'll get to it, but I think if you think about content ideas, which is also something that I think a lot of advisors struggle with, thinking about your audiences, your target audiences, think about their top concerns, but also their top interests, which don't have to just be financial. Like phishing and identity theft is just sort of a little ancillary. Or I did a blog recently on the best technology for seniors, and that was one of our most popular blogs. I'm doing one next month on AI and how it will impact consumers' lives. So it doesn't have to be financial. I think mixing those in is great. The other thing is, think about your ideal prospects. They can be your guests. So it could be small business owners. It could be retirement plans of businesses near you. Think of centers of influence that you either work with or want to work with, estate attorneys and CPAs. And here, make sure they have a personality, because it needs to be somebody that is enjoyable to talk to on the podcast. But it's this is where I think it's a lot easier than you think. So let's go back to getting started. I think we just gave some content ideas. Matt, what about the equipment, which everybody always asks?
So I hope everybody who was just listening, you just gave the rest of the 12. I just want you to know that, right? And I don't know if you realized you were doing that. Everybody needs to go back and hit rewind and listen to all of the things you just outlined, because you just filled an entire year's worth of podcast. So I do that for a reason, because I want people, we know that if you know what you're going to talk about in your next episode, the current episode is going to be better because your confidence is higher. Okay.
Yeah. You know what? I got a good comment from someone. I think we are jumping around a little. Let's go very linearly, and help everybody understand. Let's first start with, I'm interested in getting started. What equipment should I buy?
Sure.
And then we will move through sort of the logical next steps.
So we really recommend, and this is going to sound like a shameless plug for a company I don't own stock in, but it's called the Samson 2QU. Right. It's a plug and play microphone that's on Amazon or wherever you buy B&H, anywhere, Musician's Friend, Guitar Center. It is an absolutely fantastic microphone. You need a directional condenser microphone. And here's why. If you can.
Okay, I'm going to type this Samsung. Yeah,
Samson. Actually, you know what? Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to give you the link. I should have had that up already. Just give me 1 second. I will put it in there. So Sam. Yeah, almost there. I think
there's going to be a lot of, maybe we'll put some slides together and or a document together. I think it's a lot for people to digest as we talk. Yeah.
I'm going to put that in. I'm going to just put it in chat.
Okay. Yeah, please do. And I'm noting down the questions, but in order to stay in this, in a more logical flow, I will come back to you.
Okay.
So if I
all right, so we talked about the 12 in the rest of the 12, by the way, just so everybody knows, I will finish that up after I answer this question. But the directional condenser mic is really important. And here's why, because if I move the microphone away, you can hardly hear me. And
Yeah.
so you don't have to soundproof everything. Dear God, please don't spend the money on the stupid stuff you put on the walls. You just need to buy a good microphone. And that microphone, by the way, has two different wonderful settings. One is a USB plug and play, and the other one is called XLR, which if you need to have multiple microphones, you actually have to have a mixer, right? And by the way, we have all, well, it is, but here's the cool thing.
Okay.
In Podcasting 101, which I'm going to show here in just a few minutes, in our free PodRocket Academy, we have all of these checklists and lists for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
how much does that microphone cost?
Right now it's on sale for $69.
$69. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is the only piece of equipment you really need.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's it.
Okay.
Just plug it into your computer. You're good to go.
Great.
Now,
And
from a
then what is
tech
the-
perspective,
Yeah.
you want to record. I mean, there's lots of different recordings. It depends on your computer. We recommend a program called Audacity. It's free. And you can record multiple channels into Audacity. You can do all of your post-production, including your editing, intro and outro in Audacity. And again, it is free. It is an amazing program for free.
All right. So we will include that. I am going to, Blair, as you're on the back, can you take notes of everything I'm saying we will share? And I'm going to just say lesson learned. Like, I think these are things we probably should have some slides on. And as I said, we will provide them afterwards. Okay. So I've got my microphone.
Yep.
And I've thought about I've decided I want to do an interview format. I've decided who I want to, interview for the next, first several episodes. What is the frequency and what do I do next?
So what we recommend that you do is walk before you run. So really you just need to get those first 3 or 4 episodes in the can. And you want to do this, by the way, before you release anyway, because when you release your podcast, you have to release multiple episodes. It's an algorithmic hack in the podcast players, because what's going to happen is if you launch 4,
Go back. I lost you on the algorithmic hack.
Right. So basically what happens is when you dump episodes, which is why they dump seasons, big companies dump seasons, is because they know that people will absolutely binge listen to all 4 if you drop 4, right?
So you're saying if you want to start a podcast, record how many before you launch, and do you drop all of them at once versus drop 1 a month? Right.
So yeah. So the continued frequency we recommend is actually 2 podcasts a month. That's the run rate that we have found is the easiest for advisors to manage. But regardless, if you're going to do 1 a month or 2 a month, now I do not recommend 4 a month. I'm just going to be really honest. You guys all have jobs. Your job isn't to just what?
I was thinking 1, so 2 sounds good. 4 would be overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. Now, so out of the
But you wait to launch? Like, what is the number that you record before you launch?
4 is the magic number. So you're going to get 4 of them in the can with your 5th ready to go. And you're going to launch 4 through the podcast syndication platform that you use. We use one called Blueberry, BLUBRRY. And what happens is that then takes your podcast and sends it out to every major player. Okay. And then you have the 5th one in the can ready to go, and you're going to then release that on whatever your release schedule is, whether that's 1 a month or 2 a month.
So you need to really record 5 to be ready to get going.
Yep.
And one question I've always had this as well. Can you turn a webinar into, or something that was a video into a podcast?
So videos are meant to be short pieces of communication, talking about one point with very little depth. That's what very few people are going to watch anything over 3 minutes. 5 is really, really pushing it, just so you know. And the ideal podcast length is 27 minutes. All research shows that. I'll die on that hill because we just know that's what research shows. But when it comes to a webinar, you can't. Let me rephrase that. You shouldn't. And the reason why is because it's a totally different feeling, right? When you're doing a webinar, it's generally you're presenting to people. People don't want to be talked at anymore. They want to feel like they're part of the conversation. And Susan, that's why when you said, it needs to have, we actually, in our managed influence services, we have professional co-hosts. Their whole job is to ask advisors questions, right? because we know that if you feel like you're a fly on the wall, eavesdropping on two people who are really passionately talking about something, first off, your sales resistance goes down exponentially and your receptivity to the message goes up.
Yeah. And you said something, I think I actually asked you this question yesterday. And, when we are doing a webinar, we're talking at an audience, we're talking to educate an audience. And although your objective in a podcast is similar, the podcast itself is you having a conversation with someone. And so you do it differently. So the answer to the question, I think, is ideally, no, you would not leverage a webinar. So you keep going. I'm getting lots of comments. You are the expert. Let's keep going. At some point, we'll round into how to promote them, but let's keep going down your, what to do next.
All right. So you purchased the right microphone. Don't buy a Yeti. I'm just going to say that out loud because a lot of you will be like, oh, I Googled it and they said Yeti's the best mic. It's not, it sucks. That microphone is the best one. It's a much better price point. Okay. The second thing, now you have podcast topics, right? So you've got the first three, which are going to be the who you are, what you do, and why you do it. Your fourth and fifth one are going to be what you always find yourself saying over and over again to clients, right? Whether it's about life insurance or whether it's about how much cash you need to have, on the side so that you don't have to deal with, day trading or when the market poops itself, that your financial planning process, whatever. And then Sue, what you had said was, the centers of influence, the last the last 7, I want you to start writing people's names down. These are going to be centers of influence who you as the advisor are going to interview about how smart they are. And there's a whole bunch of great marketing collateral and why we recommend that you do that. But basically, if they agree to be on your show, they're endorsing you as their preferred financial advisor, and you also gain access to their audience. So we've got the equipment. You need to do your editing in a program called Audacity, which, by the way, there are great videos on YouTube. We have them too in our academy on how to use Audacity. The third thing is you need to be able to take your finished product and put it on a platform that goes out to every single place, which is a syndication platform. We recommend Blueberry because the analytics are the best and it's the most compliance friendly. Okay. And I don't know if we want to dive into compliance very deeply.
I think we should.
Okay. And I'll get to that in just a second. You still need to have your cover art done and the intro and outro for your show. So those are things that you want to do. Now, obviously, you can hire our company. We do this for a living. We've done over 7,000 podcasts. We've done about 250,000 social media posts for our clients, only financial services professionals. But if you don't want to use us, you can go to a great website called Fiverr or Upwork, right? Which are great websites. And you type in podcast intro and brilliant people will show up and you'll pay them $100. You do get what you pay for with this, $100, and they will not only record it with their professional voice, but they'll also put music under it that you have rights to. And then that's what you're going to put on the beginning and the intro and outro for your show specifically. Same thing with cover art, by the way. You type in podcast cover art, hundreds of people show up on Upwork or Fiverr, and you can choose which one you like their artwork, tell them what you want, and they will give you a finished product that you can upload.
Yeah. And I will also just add, you can also do that within the FMG platform with the Canva integration. So you mentioned compliance. Let's just quickly touch on that. So for somebody that's affiliated with a broker dealer, what do you suggest?
So first off, you are allowed to podcast. I'm just going to say that out loud. I've met with just about every single solitary broker dealer, wirehouse, RIA, major company in North America, not just the States, right? You can podcast. There's just a couple of things that you have to remember. Number one, don't say stupid stuff. You know what you're not allowed to say, so just don't freaking say it. Guys, come on, you're killing me with this. Well, compliance won't let me do it. No, it's because you're saying stuff you're not supposed to say. So there's the first thing. Number two, you have to transcribe the podcast and submit it after you record it to compliance for approval. We use a company called Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, they don't have to actually write it down. I know there are, if you could talk about, there are and subtitles also, if somebody's doing a video, but what is the easiest way to get that transcript? I'm pretty sure there's sort of an easy button.
It's called Descript. It's the best of the best of the best. There's a lot of other ones that you can use. That's what we use as a kind of a high volume shop. We have just found that it is the cleanest, it's the most accurate, and compliance really loves it because, well, they get the document and they can say, all right, well, I'm going to read that. You have to take out from 4 minutes and 32 seconds to 5 minutes and 98 seconds because you said something stupid. The timestamp, you go to Audacity, you go to 4 minutes and 32 seconds, and then you cut it out. By the way, we teach all of this in 101 too on how to do that. Okay, so there was number one, don't say stupid stuff. Number two, you have to have the transcript. In number three, different broker dealers and different organizations won't allow you to syndicate everywhere, which is why we recommend to use Blueberry, because I can turn off the ones that they will say are not compliant. Just so you know, iTunes is not generally compliant because you can't turn off or archive likes, shares, comments, and reviews. But you can on Spotify and YouTube. Now, Susan, I'm not going to go down the YouTube track too deeply, but I just want everybody to know that Spotify is the number one podcast player. YouTube is the second one. iTunes is 3.
Yeah, and actually just pause quickly on that because I have had some questions, and there are podcasts that are just audio, and there are podcasts that are also video. And I know that YouTube is one of the, I think I read 1 in 5 people's preferred podcast platform. And a lot of, when you talk about creating sort of that personal connection, I think video really adds to a podcast. Can you talk about whether you recommend that or not?
So here's the thing. You're not Joe Rogan. I have to start there. I'm sorry. Because listen, you don't have 9 different robotic cameras and a professional switcher, which, by the way, I've sampled all of that stuff. In fact, I built an entire podcast studio like that in my town for a nonprofit organization. It was like $60,000, right? So I know a lot of you might have 60 grand sitting around, but you don't need it, right? So here's the thing though. You have to post your podcast on YouTube. You can do it one of 2 ways. Now, the way that we did it before was it was a static image of your cover art, which is like your album cover for your podcast, and then uploaded the MP4 audio, because here's the deal. Even though it's the second largest podcast player, nobody's watching it. It's on their second screen. And we have all sorts of research out the wazoo to show that, right? And so, but what's happening now, what we're doing and what a lot of other people are doing is they're taking the raw Zoom footage or Riverside or whatever you're using, and they're just uploading that directly to YouTube, because you do need that from an SEO perspective. And that's really where a lot of people consume it. But here's the deal. Don't put out crappy content. And I maybe should have started this entire thing with just that one statement. The reason why I'm so pushy about a microphone, Susan, is because if you have bad audio, it doesn't matter how smart you are, nobody's going to listen. Because you're in their brain. It's got to sound really great, right? And same thing with video. Listen, if you're not lit well, if you have a crummy camera, right? If you don't have any sort of post-production software, people don't want you to, and I jokingly say this with my partner all the time, don't half-ass anything, whole-ass it, right? I mean, you have to, this is a show, everybody, and you need to keep that show quality to it.
That sounds like 201 or 301. So start with just the audio, a lot simpler and less expensive to execute effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
All right. What is your next question? Where am I going?
Well, one of the things that I also know is, there's a quote, if a tree falls in a forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? No. So, we could have advisors doing all these podcasts, but how do they make sure that they're getting a return on investment and they're getting listeners? And also I'd like to touch on how they measure them, but from a repurposing of content, and that's, I think, where our partnership comes in, what have you seen be most successful? Some suggestions for, just the bare minimum and sort of what other, advisors have done that have really been best practices.
Sure. So first off, all of what most people think about podcasts are vanity metrics that don't matter. Okay. So first off, if you have 500 people listen to your show within 48 hours, you are in the top 10% of all podcasts in the world. Just think about that, right? So people are like, well, Matt, I want to have thousands and thousands. Well, of course, everybody wants thousands of people, but do you really want thousands of thousands of people? No, you want hundreds of people who are your ideal clients, prospects, and centers of influence listening to your show so that they continue to feel like you're talking to them and building a relationship. So real ROI. So there are 5 aspects of ROI that we talk about a lot when it comes to podcasting. First off, it's the greatest, most easy client communication tool you're ever going to have. And your clients are going to want to listen, which is your first step in marketing your show, which is marketed into your existing book of business. Okay. So number 2, it is the best possible referral ask. It's easier to say, I'd like for you to listen to my podcast than it is to, who do you know? Who are your 5 closest work associates? People, by the way, still do that, which is so terrifically uncomfortable. I can't believe people still do.
Yeah, me neither.
Right. Number 3, centers of influence, right? When you bring on your centers of influence, you are not only going to gain access to their audience, but you're deepening a relationship with them. And they're basically saying, you're my financial advisor. Number 4, being able to sell a new product to an existing client is much easier than getting a new client. So we know that if you use good podcast marketing, right, you're going to bring somebody like an estate planning attorney on. And I tell this story a lot, but it's such a great illustration. The estate planning attorney says, Susan, I have a whole desk drawer full of trusts that I've been paid on, but I know they're not funded because I never got the funding information to complete the trust, right? And then the advisor says, well, Mr. Attorney or Mrs. Attorney, what should they do about that? And she says, well, they should probably fund the trust. And so the advisor then says, well, if you want to fund your trust, I can help you. We've actually had our clients do this over and over again. And when that podcast drops, their clients call them and say, man, Susan, I'm so sorry. I have $300,000 sitting in a bank CD that is supposed to be funding the trust. I just keep forgetting about it. Can you help me? Oh, yeah, I'll help you. Right. And then the last one is overall net new assets and net new business. But we leave that at the end because that takes 18 to 24 months. Great marketing is slow marketing. It takes time. You have to build momentum. Podcasting is not flash in the pan. You're going to release 12 episodes and you're going to be like, nobody's listening. That's fine. I've done 1,000, right?
We have a listener that said, Matt Cook says long game. Yes,
long game.
It is.
Oh,
and
man.
Actually podcasting is one of all of the, tactics that you need to have for an integrated marketing strategy. And it is a long game. I think it's really interesting to point out here that the ROI that Matt is referring to, not one of them is listeners and downloads and all of those other short-term metrics that, I think most advisors think they should measure success on. It's the long game metrics, which are exactly the same things that we say about your website, about client communications, about blogging, about social. It's whether you're hitting centers of influence and adding centers of influence, whether you're improving relationships with existing clients and gaining share of wallet. And as you said, overall net new business and assets over time. Yeah. So I think that's pretty interesting. Love this takeaway. Great marketing is slow marketing. Yeah.
So very quickly, I've got a friend of mine who actually doesn't use our managed services. He started podcasting before we even started. His name is Jimmy. Jimmy has tracked $1 million in new assets under management every month. And it's like clockwork. But here's the deal. And Susan, you and I have talked about this before. The problem is advisors don't ask the right questions upon intake, right? They don't ask, how did you hear about us? Well, I was referred to you by Susan. All right. Well, did you also look at our website? Did you check out our podcast? Did you follow us on social? You have to ask those follow-up questions.
And it's typically all of the above. There's one quick question I think is sort of relevant right now. CTAs within a podcast.
Yeah. All right. So the perfect podcast formula: storytelling, education, entertainment, call to action. Call to action needs to be top of the funnel. Right. So the best calls to action that we recommend at the first 12 episodes is please like, share, and subscribe our podcast, right? Because you're trying to build a fan base, you're trying to build an audience. And then after that, you should be driving them to content, longer form content that specifically addresses who you are and what you do. And by the way, FMG's got some good stuff for that. So you can say, hey, download our white paper, go to our blog. Those are sorts of things where you're going to put more and more hooks. Follow me on social. All of those are the right hooks. The one that you shouldn't do is go to the contact us page on my website. Okay. Because I'm sorry, they're not going to do that. You need to drive them to want to opt in. What we're talking about, I'm talking about, is opt-in marketing. This is not push marketing. This is pull marketing. People are absolutely opting into your thought leadership.
And that's the only way it works in general. People aren't going to respond to a call me. And we all know that because that's not what we do in general, in our general lives. So maybe I'd love you to bring up some examples of advisors that you've worked with, show how they are using podcasts on their websites, and maybe talk about how they're leveraging FMG to share the social, share on social. I'm curious what you think of audio waves and things like that.
So I'm going to give a couple of quick examples here of people who are actually joint clients of ours. So this is 6 Point Financial Partners, right? So this is one of our absolute A+ clients. His name is David Pulsini. And so right here, one click, Kerblango podcast. This totally integrates with the FMG system. It goes right there, and look at how pretty it looks. It's right there. It's so pretty.
I love how he says "Dear Rochester," so immediately you know who he's speaking to.
And so from a branding perspective, I mean, the ones that I'm going to show you, they're pretty freaking dialed in. And so, I mean, and on top of that, we were kind of, put our best foot forward. These guys are awesome. And so anyway, so we created the custom cover art here. We also, he actually came up with the name, which was great. He actually came to us with the name. But look, guest, right? Oh my gosh. He even brings on his team members and interviews his team members to highlight how deep his bench is, right? It's absolutely fantastic. And just look at how nice this is. Subscribe, share, put it there. But I mean, if you look at the website in general, look at how beautiful, like the moving picture here, all of the different opportunities that are here, how the process is set up. This is just such a great, clean website that we absolutely love. And I just wanted to show you that totally integrates. Go ahead.
So he has added podcast on his primary nav, and I've seen that done, as well as something like insights or resources, and then they've got podcasts and blogs. But I think it's interesting. It's great to call it out. Interesting, on this one, they've chosen to put podcast on the far left, like the most important piece of their website.
Look, it's actually on their landing page.
Yeah, and it looks like this one's YouTube. So is he using video?
Yeah, he does all of the above, right? Yeah. And so this is one of those things where we're actually posting the podcast on YouTube. Their marketing strategy drives people to YouTube now, but they can also go ahead and as you click here, you can go ahead and download.
That looks very nice.
Yeah, look at this. Look at this. Look at, they're all hanging out together. It's so nice. So their format, one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up is because this is so powerful and so relaxed, right? Here's the crazy thing. They're sampling whiskey. But here's the deal, right? Oh, I can't hear you anymore. I lost you, Susan.
Oh, I'm sorry. The dog barks. I put it on mute. I like their little desk on the barrels with the whiskey. That's but talk about being real and showing their personality. I think, if you think about your website, without something like this, you've got your about us and you've got your pictures, and sometimes they're just the headshots, but sometimes we're always encouraging people to get a bit more casual. But this really helps bring you to life and convey your, authority and personality. And these are the reasons people choose you.
And this is their whole marketing strategy, is they want to hang out with people who have things in common with them. And so that's why they put their foot forward on this, right? This is absolutely, and it's just incredibly well done. And they bring in like nonprofit organizations that they want to sponsor, or that in a lot of times they'll be like, hey, and by the way, we're donating $500 to this charity, so there's some really cool stuff there. And then this one is one of our,
on that, because I think we've suggested that YouTube and the video piece is something that's really a second or third phase of your podcasting strategy, but this could just be your cover art. It doesn't have to be a video, and you're still able to convey that personality, and then they click on and it's audio.
Absolutely. And this is the last one. So you can see that. So this is an LPL advisor, lots and lots of client, resources, which by the way, are all your guys' stuff. And then his podcast specifically, it's called the Monetary Mixtape. So he focuses on Gen X. And so, in fact, the reason why we really wanted to show this is because he has actually generated, with only 19 episodes, more money from the podcast than he has from any of his other marketing techniques, because he's so hyper focused on Gen X, and nobody markets to Gen X, like nobody. So anyway, so there are a couple of examples.
How would you attribute, what would you attribute his success to? A, niche marketing, but obviously he had to get to that niche. What were his tactics to promote the website that were so effective?
Consistency, slow marketing, consistency in
Social,
brand, consistency in
clients,
yeah,
newsletters, the whole bit. Same thing.
absolutely. Just attack, really going after his client base first. And then honestly, because nobody's marketing to Generation X, when you type in Generation X podcast, he's one of the first ones that come up, right? And so, and that's why it's so important for you to really have a very focused niche, because we haven't talked about this, and we should probably talk about this very quickly. You can't podcast to everybody, because nobody cares when you're talking to everybody. When you're talking to somebody that's very, very narrow and very, very specific, you're going to be speaking their language, and you're going to create fans, right? And that's the ultimate goal that we want. Now, I'm not talking about, people asking for your autograph fans, but people who like, know, and trust and respect you and are coming in pre-sold. And most importantly, that they're people who are going to start telling everybody about your marketing and who you are. That's what a real fan does. In fact, I was just joking with a friend of mine. Taylor Swift doesn't market. All of her fans market for her. That's it. Right.
And that is yes. When you have raving fans, you can sit back and let the marketing happen. I'm going to ask you to talk to, most advisors serve a variety of ideal clients, whether it be small business owners and retirees. They help to plan a tax optimized legacy, but that's not like a personality. There are lots of people that fit into those, having those financial needs, which is also a niche. And, we're talking about this being a way to showcase your personality. Do you have to just focus on one type of client, or can your niche be really the personality of which you're attracted, that is attracted to you?
So that's interesting, because, most people just focus on the demographic aspects of a niche audience. We also want you to focus on the psychographics of your niche audience. That's very, very, very important. You can find people who behave this way and talk to them specifically.
Yeah, we just got the question, what if you don't have a niche? I think it is, clients are choosing you because of who you are, why you do what you do, and what you do. And a lot of that really is your personal brand, which is what we talk all the time about, the importance of social and blogging and your website, of building out that personal brand. And a podcast is just another component.
Yeah.
It really helps bring your personal brand to life. And in opt-in marketing or inbound marketing, it will appeal to those that are likely your ideal prospects. So you don't have to just focus on doctors to do a successful podcast. I think, somebody that does focus on Gen X can be much more specific in some of their targeting. But for the vast majority of advisors, where there isn't just some tiny niche, I think it still works tremendously well, because what it is playing into building that personal brand and showing your personality and giving away your advice and insight freely, and that reflects well on you. So it's just that on a ascendant journey of marketing tactics, it's that next one that helps just, exponentially grow your business, because it's adding to your persona.
Okay, I need to do a couple, because I want to get to some of the Q&A potentially, if you don't mind. I'm going to share a couple of quick things. I know that we've blown through a lot of stuff here, but the ultimate goal here is I want to give you all something for free. Okay. And this is in our PodRocket Academy, right? Which is free. You go to podrocketacademy.com, and this is podcasting 101. And I just want to show you the level of detail that you get for free. Look at all those.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
Right.
And
so
then this is do it yourself for free, right? But
And
you're
then,
telling them how.
yep. And then look, we've got all of these worksheets. This is all free, everybody. Free. There's different syndication platforms, how to
So
name your podcast, first 20 episodes.
podrocketacademy.com,
That's
right?
correct. Right. So that to me is I can't answer all of the questions in an hour, and I know that. But if you go to Pod Rocket Academy, you literally sign up for free. You get access to everything that I just showed on the screen, and way more. By the way, including FMG resources that they donated to us for us to help further the FMG message and provide even more tools for all of our users in the academy.
Absolutely. And I think with that, one of the things that we're going to do going forward, and I'll bring up a slide quickly now. Let me just do the share. And we'll get back onto this. Does everybody see my screen? And I'll go into slideshow. Okay, so we have a program called Do It For Me Marketing. And what we do in this, and essentially it's very similar. Matt has a basically Do It For Me podcasting, but Do It For Me marketing at FMG is that I and Samantha Russell, my partner, we are creating a content calendar of blogs and emails and social posts for every month. And we're thinking about, timely topics. Like yesterday, I just wrote an email and a social post for our different clients on the Fed's decision to pause rates. So that goes out anytime there's something that's timely. We're doing that on top of an existing calendar. And what we are going to do together with ProudMouth is we are going to add a podcasting script to every monthly Do It For Me calendar starting in August. And this is an example of how you can repurpose content. So I wrote a blog on identity theft and ways to identify phishing scams, which they're getting more and more sophisticated. What we're going to do is we've turned that into a podcasting script and given you a suggestion of speakers that you can invite. And we've outlined, the intro, the questions that you would ask, and the close. And this is a way where you can have a blog, an email, a social post, and a podcast, and you're leveraging the same topic, which creates a lot of scale for you. But for our Do It For Me customers, we're actually writing it for you and providing you with a script. So that's something neat that we'll be starting to do in August. Anything that you want to add to that, Matt?
Well, I'm super happy that you and I are doing that together, because it's just hugely valuable, right? It's really just one of those things where it's going to make such a huge difference, and hopefully just get people over the hump of oh my God, I know I need a podcast.
Yeah.
And you are now going to be providing them with one perfect that you can even submit to compliance ahead of time, by the way. Now it's not scripted, like you don't say this, but it's the talking points and everything that we know you need to have to do a successful podcast. Yeah.
And I think, if you think about marketing, and it is a long game and it's a content game, you need content across all of those channels. And as we're saying, doing a podcast twice a month, obviously you can't rely on a strategy that is just 2 podcasts. That has to be rounded out by consistent posts on social on a range of topics, by emailing your clients when something timely comes up and emailing them periodically to touch base. And we've seen the studies by Y-Charts that talk about how clients continue to still feel like you are not communicating enough. So there is no such thing as too much. So together, it's a really great partnership with ProudMouth being able to help you. If you'd like self-help, they give you the tools. But if you'd like somebody to do it for you, they will help do it for you. And they work with us so closely to make sure that you're able to leverage all of those podcasts and market them across all of the different channels, including your website and social and email. So maybe we'll open up to questions now. I know we've been getting a lot throughout this, but see if any are coming in right now. All right.
God. Yeah, I feel like there's so many questions. I don't even know where to begin. And I actually just put my LinkedIn connect or thing in there. Listen, if we don't get to all of them and they're really specific podcasting, just DM me on LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to answer questions. I literally do that most of my day anyway. But what do you got for me, Susan?
Let's see. What about repeat? Something really great from 2 years ago. I love that. We say that all the time. It doesn't even have to be 2 years ago. It could be 7 months ago. Talk about that really quickly.
Yeah. So rinse, lather, and repeat. So important. That's one of the big fallacies, I think, is that you have to be creating brand new organic content all the time. No, play greatest hits, man. If it was a great show, rinse, lather, and repeat. You just have to redo a new opening. Listen, this was one of our most listened to episodes. Still great content. I want you to go ahead and tune in and listen to this again. That's it. That's your new intro. Perfect to go.
Let's see here. Please provide the last 7 of the 10 item subject list.
Okay. So we were at 4. So 4 is going to be the most frequently asked questions. So that's actually going to be 2 to 3 episodes of your frequently asked questions. Things that, again, over and over and over again, and you want to do lists. The top 10 questions are clients ask. The top 10 questions are prospective clients ask. There's at least 2 shows right there. And then the third one would be, again, what do you say over and over and over and over again that you wish you could scale that piece of expertise, right? So that brings you to 6, right? So the last 6 are going to be a list of names of your ideal centers of influence, prospective clients, like Susan said, and or high visibility business people in your community, and you're going to ask them to be a guest on your show. So, and honestly, that's your model from then on out. You're just going to basically start interviewing more and more people. Basically, that just shows your level of expertise, that it doesn't always have to be about you. It's actually going to be about somebody else super, super smart.
Yeah, like think about any small business owner, talking to them about how they got started, tell their story. I mean, just that stories are what people love, hearing about people. And again, from advisors I've talked to, every single panelist they have becomes a client.
Yeah.
And their friends.
I'm going to give you a real life example. So I was just at the Jolt conference recently, and I managed a panel with 3 podcasters who are advisors. And one of them, her name is Misty Lynch. Follow her on social, by the way. She's rock star.
Misty Lynch. Okay.
Misty Lynch, right? Lynch. And so she only interviews successful female-owned business owners in Boston.
Nice.
She's closing like 60% of them. They come on the show, they get to experience the mistiness. They love her. They share the podcast, and then she has a follow-up sequence, and they become clients.
Good question. Do you have to be in the same room when you do a podcast with someone?
No. Oh, and we've done everything virtual for the last 6 years. So you can use Zoom or Riverside.
So does the other person have to have that fancy mic?
No, I really want them to have a good microphone. But you can actually use the old corded Apple earbuds, not the iBuds or the AirTunes or whatever they're called.
Okay.
But yes, the ones with the cord with a little itty bitty microphone in it. It's unbelievable.
Great. So our advisors are going to have that fancy mic, and they are going to sound absolutely beautiful. And their guest, who can be wherever, can have something else, ideally the iPhone cord ones. And they're using Audacity. What are they using to record it?
So in that situation, you would actually use Zoom. Zoom, by the way, has upped their levels unbelievably. It's really, really high quality. If you want to take the next step up, there's something called Riverside.fm. That would be the other thing that you could sign up for. That is, well, Zoom is generally free-ish, right? But if you Riverside, there is an investment, but it's worth every penny.
So Zoom is easy. So we could everybody's used to using it. So you can use Zoom. You get your microphone, you do exactly what we're doing, and then you hang up, you download it as a recording, and then you
put it into Audacity.
The next steps.
Yep. So then you put it into Audacity. So there's a couple of very quick advanced settings on Zoom that you want to have each of the audio tracks be separate. So when you download them, they're separate audio tracks. There's lots of post-production value in that, which means let's say if Susan, your dog starts barking while I'm talking, I can edit that out on your track and it doesn't affect my track. You upload both of those into Audacity, then you can put your intro and outro on there. You can normalize it. It's absolutely freaking amazing.
Fantastic. I think we could keep going, but we are right at the top of the hour, and my apologies for letting it swirl a little in the beginning, as we had so much to talk about, but I hope everybody got a lot out of this. We will be sending the recording as well as all of the tips that Matt had shared, and you have Matt's website. We'll include his free podcasting academy, and I hope that we'll both be able to work with you together going forward. This is an exciting new part of marketing for many of you. Thank you so much. Thanks, Matt. It was great having you. Bye, everybody.